This is the role of AI tutors in education. In this video, I'm going to talk about education as a whole and how AI has transformed the educational experience for many people around the world and will continue to do so. So keep watching to learn more. So first of all, the educational world has kind of stagnated. If you think about it, it hasn't really changed much in the last few decades. So people attend a classroom, they sit in class all day, they learn from a teacher, and the teacher typically, the typical model is like a teacher and like 20 students, right? Maybe 30 students, 40 students. And so that creates a pretty difficult situation for that teacher, because if that teacher is a good teacher, she or he might be able to kind of personalize the information for the few students that might be struggling to understand or maybe learn in a different way. But for the most part, it's going to be the same content. And so they're teaching kind of preset content. They're not necessarily changing it much. They're not necessarily customizing it. They have a certain track that they need to get through, and that's exactly what they're teaching. So it doesn't really matter to them whether the students understand it or not. Of course, they want to make sure that the people are comprehending and that they can test well and all that stuff. But for the most part, it's not like they have all this free time in order to just sit down with every single person one-on-one and help them through all these different scenarios. And so it's not a personalized educational experience. And I think where we are headed with AI is actually just huge opportunities for personalization. And so I think education is one of them, because think about it like this. Instead of people going into a classroom and listening to one professor or one teacher, every single person gets the same experience. But imagine if we leveraged AI for this, and instead of this teacher teaching one thing, AI can teach every single student in a super customized and individualized way. So of course that has some pros and cons, right? But if we had AI doing this, I think that could really transform the educational experience. So first of all, let's talk about some potential pros of this. So first of all, if you have a customized educational experience, let's say you learn more through images than through reading or through hearing, right? If you are a visual learner, that means that this AI tool, or this AI teacher, let's call it, the AI teacher can help you understand whatever topic it is using visuals. With today's day and age, we have generative AI. So basically AI can generate things that don't exist yet. And so if you have a student who has maybe a preference of learning visually, and this might be like a super non-visual subject, like for example, let's talk about a couple subjects. Let's say math, right? That one would be kind of hard, right? Let's say the math problem is that John has 2 apples, and then somebody gives him 11 apples. How many apples does he have? Well, instead of them reading this and trying to understand and like visualize it and think about it, what if it was just a short video that played? John was holding 2 apples. Somebody handed him 9 more apples, and now you can see visually all the apples, right? And so I think that could really change things for people, especially in the earlier years of education. Once you get into complicated like calculus and stuff like that, it's going to be kind of hard to visualize some of these things, although it's still possible, it's all formulas. So something like that could provide a immensely different educational experience than what they might have seen before. And so I think that could be super valuable for some people. I know some of my close friends and contacts, they just have a different learning preference, right? It's not necessarily anything bad or anything good. It's just they learn better in this way. And so if we're trying to box everybody into how this person teaches, that might be a little bit difficult. And I think that would decrease comprehension. So in order to increase comprehension, we want to make sure that we give everybody as customized of an experience as possible. Anyways, that's one example. Now, let's say, for example, there was a history lesson, right? And so the history lesson is about maybe a war that happened, or maybe the United States being formed, or Christopher Columbus coming across the Atlantic, right? So all these different scenarios, while yes, it's important that we know how to read and how to comprehend to a certain degree, but what if we could increase that comprehension? Now, I'm not saying we necessarily have to replace that content, right? What if instead of replacing the content, we supplemented it with some sort of visuals? What if AI just created a short video, right? Maybe 15, 30-second video depiction of what happened. Hey, this is what happened, this is how it happened, maybe some narration there, and that's already possible with the tools that we have available today. With today's technology, we don't even have to wait for this. It's already possible. And so imagine if one person had this learning preference and somebody else had an auditory preference, right? Or maybe somebody else, the assignment was to watch a movie, but somebody learns better when it's audio, right? Or maybe they learn better by reading it. And so all these can be customized to every single student. And so another pro of all of this is that learning styles are one thing, but then there's also the aspect of, okay, it looks like you're struggling with this, right? This specific thing. Let's say back to the math example. Let's say this person struggles with multiplication. Addition, subtraction, division is great. It's like, okay, well, why don't we go a little bit heavier on the multiplication side, because this person needs help with multiplication. And so, using AI, that can be done instantly, just about instantly. And so that allows this person to get a very customized form of education. And it might be learning from a computer, but if they're learning more than they're learning from a human, maybe it's the best way to do it. And so anyways, let's go into some cons, some negatives of potentially having an AI professor or AI teacher. I think that cons, for the most part, AI can't really build a personal relationship with you. So for example, one of the best experiences that I had in my schooling is that I had a personal relationship with all of my professors, all of my teachers. So I learned a lot because this person was kind of like a friend, right? I had this relationship with my professor and they could explain things to me a little bit more. Again, it's not a necessarily customized learning experience for me, but because I had rapport with that person, it just clicked a little bit better. And maybe that's just me, but I think that con of having AI teachers is that, they're not necessarily going to build a relationship with you. It's a computer. That's all it does. Although you can have a customized learning experience, it may not be for everybody who needs that personal touch of having another human there, somebody that they can talk to, somebody that they can communicate with and potentially learn a little bit better by having that human connection. So that's one con. A second one is that somebody would still have to be kind of manning this whole operation. And so you need to have people that are very, very skilled and making sure that AI is not having hallucinations. So AI still has hallucinations, which means kind of makes stuff up sometimes. It's like, yeah, well, that's great that you think 2 times 2 is 4, but it's actually 5, So AI is actually not that great at math currently. It's probably going to get better in the future, but currently where we're at, it is not the best mathematician, let me tell you. And so sometimes it kind of makes things up or imagines things, which is fine, but when it's in a learning environment and it's very fact-based, we need to make sure that somebody's going in there and auditing each one of these things to make sure that they're accurate when they go out to students. So anyways, guys, that is how I believe AI can transform the educational space. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.